My name is Deborah Grayson Regal, and I have been a professional speaker and a speaking instructor for over 20 years. From my earliest beginnings as a high school national champion in public speaking and speech writing, to my role today as an international corporate trainer and a visiting professor of executive communications at Peking University, China, I have been collecting and using the best tips, tools, and techniques to help people present with more polish, power, and professionalism. The skills that I will be sharing with you are based on my own experience in instructing hundreds of thousands of speakers around the world. I hope that you will find them as helpful as they have, and I thank you for the opportunity to work with you. Do you remember the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off? In this classic comedy, popular high school student Ferris Bueller simply cannot fathom spending another gorgeous, sunny day stuck inside the school building, suffering through dull classes and tedious teachers. With his best buddy Cameron Fry at his side, the two of them spend the day taking the city of Chicago by storm. Cut to his economics class, where the hapless teacher kicks off his class with a painfully monotonous roll call. Fry, Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. The teacher's voice was slow, drawn out, bland, and boring. He sounded like he couldn't care less if his students were there or not, and even like he couldn't care less if he himself was there. Who wouldn't want to skip out of a class as dry, dreary, and deadly as that? Please, don't let your audience feel this way about you. If you've taken the time to prepare for a presentation and your audience has taken the time to listen to you, you both deserve to feel something while you're in the room. Like what? Like interested, engaged, inspired, motivated, connected, convinced. Sound good? It does to me. And if it does to you too, then some sound advice is to make yourself sound interested, engaged, inspired, motivated, connected, and convinced if you want your audience to feel it too. How do you do that? By using vocal variety in your speaking voice to create a warm, welcoming, and appealing atmosphere for yourself and your listeners. Without vocal variety, your listeners don't know what to pay attention to, which parts of your presentation are most relevant to them, and when you're ready to change topics. Your tone, pitch, and pace of speaking serves as a signal to your audience to listen up now, or let's get serious, or don't miss this part, or let's take a moment to reflect. In the same way that a cooing, giggling baby signals, what you're doing is making me happy, keep going, even without saying a word, your voice lets the audience know how you're feeling and how they should be feeling too. Without such expression, your listeners will lose their focus, miss your meaning, and ignore the impact, all of which can throw you off as the speaker. In my experience, when it comes to vocal variety, you'll want to keep in mind the letter P to guide your presentation style. Pace, projection, pauses, pitch, and pronunciation. Let's take them one by one. Think about a time when you were nervous making a presentation, or when you were listening to a speaker who you could tell was nervous. What did you notice about his or her pace of speaking? Chances are the speaker was racing through the presentation, speaking a mile a minute, hoping that by picking up the pace, the whole thing would be over sooner. Well, it may have been over sooner, but the listeners were left feeling spoken at rather than spoken with by the rush of words. The audience probably didn't remember much of what was being said if they were able to understand the speaker at all. When we get nervous, a flood of adrenaline takes over and we speed up our words and our breathing. One of the best ways to combat our nerves, or even create the illusion of self-confidence, is to manage a steady, even pace throughout most of the presentation. And even if you think you're already doing this, it's likely that you sound one way to yourself and another way to your audience. One of the best techniques for practicing your pacing is to present your speech, or even read from a book or magazine, as if you were speaking to a class of young students. When we speak with young students, we are naturally inclined to decrease our pace and increase our energy in order to ensure that they understand us and that they're paying attention. While I assume that you're presenting in real life to adults, adults, like young children, benefit from us helping them to comprehend and to remember new, complex, or important information. In addition, adults, like young children, can be easily distracted. Have you ever noticed how inattentive audience members with smartphones or even a pen can be? When you race through your presentation, your audience has a great excuse to tune you out. But when you take your time to really connect with your listeners will be more inclined to connect with you. Of course, while slow and steady wins the race, you will want to mix it up a bit during your presentation. While a leisurely pace conveys comfort, importance, and even seriousness, picking up the pace conveys urgency, excitement, passion, or emotion. A useful technique for deciding when to speed up is to take your approved speaker slide decks and select the spots where you want your audience to feel more motivated, stimulated, or lively. Highlight those words or sentences, and when you rehearse your presentation, practice speeding up just those parts, followed by resuming your regular pace. Let's move on to projection. Projection is about the volume of your voice and how it relates to your topic, your audience, and your environment. What do these elements matter when it comes to how loudly or quietly you are speaking? Well, imagine someone shouting during a presentation. It would seem quite inappropriate and uncomfortable. For most of the topics that you speak about in a business setting, you'll want to keep a moderate volume throughout with some occasional changes in volume when you want to call your audience's attention to something important. If you really want your listeners to take notice of an important point, get quiet. As you see people lean in to hear what you have to say, you will know what it really means to be an active listener. Now, let's talk about the power of the pause. A pause is a powerful way to give emphasis to important concepts. Pauses should come as a natural result of you giving more stress to a particular idea, word, or action that you want your audience to take. In addition, as speakers, we deliver information far more quickly than our audience can really hear and absorb it. Pauses give our listeners a well-needed break to catch up. Of course, you don't want your listeners to wonder what your pauses mean. Therefore, make sure you use them strategically, appropriately, and sparingly. Use the same technique to work on pauses as you use to practice your pace. Go through your written document and highlight where pauses would help your audience understand and retain key concepts. In addition to pausing, changing up your pitch can help your audience stay attuned to your message and your meaning. Think about professional baseball pitchers. While most of them have one particular pitch that they rely on to deliver the goods, every pitcher needs to be able to change it up to keep the batter on his toes. Curveball, fastball, knuckleball. Each of these pitches sends the ball over the plate, or for us, the message to the audience, in a different way, meaning that the batter needs to stay alert, aware, and attentive. Isn't that what we want from our listeners? By changing the tune and tone of your voice, you signal to your audience that a new idea is coming and that they should listen up or they'll miss it. Of course, you don't want to become predictable. If you make a point of always emphasizing the last sentence of a paragraph by slowing down or always speeding up when you make a transition, your pattern can become sing-songy, annoying, and inauthentic. Just like the baseball pitcher, you want to keep people guessing. To practice changing your pitch, pick any random phrase like milk and cookies and repeat the words in as many varying ways as you can. Say it angrily, milk and cookies. Happily, milk and cookies. Sadly, milk and cookies. Lovingly, milk and cookies. Despairingly, milk and cookies. Laughingly, milk and cookies. Importantly, milk and cookies. Slyly, milk and cookies. Shyly, milk and cookies. Repeat until you run out of variations or until you get so hungry you need to break for some milk and cookies. That was a delicious example. Now, apply this to your approved presentation. Choose a phrase or line from your slide presentation and practice your pitch before you present. The final piece and P of vocal variety is pronunciation. Nothing can undermine your credibility as a speaker and as a professional more than mispronouncing anything. Whether it's the names of your audience members, aspects of a product or disease state you're presenting, or the name of the company you're representing, you must learn and memorize the right way to pronounce each and every one of these elements. While some variations are acceptable due to cultural and language differences, think of the Canadian pronunciation of about versus the US pronunciation of about. 9 times out of 10, there will be a standard articulation of every word. Find it out. Use it correctly every single time. When it comes to making a powerful presentation that your audience will want to listen to, remember the 5 P's of vocal variety: pace, projection, pauses, pitch, and pronunciation. These can make the difference between being mediocre or memorable.